Okay, I'd like to call this caucus meeting to order. Be looking for a motion to excuse Lori Goman from tonight's meeting. As always, we'll look for a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the first regular meeting dated Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, accepted and prepared by the clerk. Communications, there's 3 pieces. Questions or comments on communications? If none, Mayor's report. Mayor Miller.
Sure, I'll read it now. Hey, man. Struthers Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat this year will be on Halloween night from 5 to 7. Creed from Garfield to Euclid will be closed during this time again this year. Please remember to drive slowly and cautiously through the streets. Aqua is finishing up a $3 million project to replace 7,000 feet of water main in downtown Struthers to improve reliability of service and enhance the flow. An additional 2,800 feet of water main is going to be replaced on Bridge Street and Bob Seam Way starting in the late 2024. New sidewalks will be installed in some of these project areas. On Saturday, October 26th from 3 to 7, 7 area churches will be holding a family trunk or treat event. Each church will have their own activities, and a map will be given to each child at the first church they visit. The map will be stamped at each church, and then they will be entered into a raffle. The churches are Christ Lutheran and Yellow Creek Methodist, Parkside Pilgrim Missionary Baptist, White Memorial Wesleyan Baptist, and New Vision New Day. Lemons, IGA, and Rotary. Please support Rotary in its efforts to end polio. Tomorrow, October 24th, please try to purchase Purple Pinky Donuts at $20 per dozen in the IGA bakery. $9 of that dozen goes towards Rotary and their fight in polio. Lightner's Fresh and Smoked Meats. There will be a grand reopening celebration this Saturday, October 26th, with a ribbon cutting at 9 a.m. There will be cake and coffee there. Ravenna Canine Car. We would like to thank the City of Ravenna for donating a canine car to our police department. This will be the Ford Canine Officer Dalton Moore and Recon. Struthers Build-A-Bed. We would like to thank Councilwoman Megan Pingley and Brandy Eisenbraun for another successful Sleep in Heavenly Peace Build-A-Bed Day at the Struthers Street Garage. We were able to build 20 beds at this time and had a lot of volunteers and donors. And congratulations to the Struthers FOP Lodge 41 for holding a successful fundraiser this past weekend. The turnout was great and it was well organized. Thank you to everyone who attended and congratulations to all the winners. We hope this becomes a yearly event. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Any questions for the Mayor?
Yeah, I brought up a few things to the mayor just outside here about 491 Judith Lane, the grass in the property, and 449 Creed Street, the trailers and that behind, you know, and you says that's already looked into, and the rats at 368 Section Street, the high grass in the backyard.
So all 3 of those, I spoke to everyone on that list yesterday and one the day before that. One of the houses was one of the ones that caught on fire on Sexton. We are working with them. We have contacted the Mahoning County Health Department for the rats after talking with the neighbor. The other 2, I believe Billy was already at the houses. We obviously have a problem with one of the ones on Judith. The other one is not considered in our ordinances. So that's what we were talking about, the vessels. Or
revising the ordinance. Yeah. Okay,
so
thank you.
So those are all being handled.
Thank you.
Question for you, Mayor.
Sure.
Going up Elm Street, there's a yellow flags lining the sidewalk. Are they replacing the gas line up that way?
It may not be replacing the gas line, they may have marked it for the water project that's going on.
Oh.
So the water company doesn't hit the gas line when they're digging.
That was closed all day today.
Okay, I was just curious on what.
You were hoping they tore them sidewalks, some new sidewalks.
Sidewalks are gonna tear them up.
So there is a gas line replacement project in the works that may be starting either at the end of this year or beginning of next year.
On Elm?
Not Elmore Terrace, downtown and going towards Nebo.
Is it a mainline project or
Yeah.
is it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd like to say that after this aqua project, we're gonna be, but it's gonna probably continue for a while. Which is, it's good because we're getting the improvements. We have the downtown safety study coming next. So it's gonna be one thing after the other, but when it is all complete, it'll look pretty sharp.
Any other questions for the Mayor? Before the standing committees?
Finance and Legislation Committee meeting to be held Wednesday, October 23rd at,
November
This
sixth.
is October 23rd.
okay, well then, November 6th. At 6 o'clock.
Any other committees? Okay, we have 4 pieces of legislation, 1 ordinance and 3 resolutions. Any questions or comments on legislation? Unfinished business? New business?
Mike, if I may speak,
Yeah.
I threw together some property, vacant property, codes that if the council sees fit, I'd like to present to bring out in an ordinance form. I gave everybody a copy so that you can review it, possibly make changes if you wish, you know. But, it would be very beneficial. We have several vacant houses in the city of Struthers that have been vacant for like 10 years. And we have no recourse on, vacant houses don't bring in tax revenue, okay? And there's no incentive for these people to do anything with these vacant houses.
That's not true. Vacant houses bring in property tax revenue.
That's not to the city.
To the schools, I
doesn't-
mean,
It doesn't help our finances. If we have all vacant houses in the city, we would go bankrupt.
well, we would have more problems than that if we had all vacant houses in the
True.
city.
But I threw up to get something together for you to look at. It's the council's pleasure whether they wanna pass it or not. I think it would be very, very beneficial to our property code enforcer and myself if we had this in place.
We do have, some special situations throughout the city. I know we had one, where brother, sister owned, they took care of the outside, it looked fine, it looked great, while we had got reports of the inside being flooded, the inside being molded, and, or having mold in it, and after so many years, these houses are just gonna start deteriorating, they're gonna let them
Who
go.
gave you
and
those
then-
reports though? Cause they don't have the authority to go and check inside of somebody else's property.
Right,
So that,
So
But
how
when
they
you're
got the
seeing-
information, we don't know.
yeah, we don't know, but if,
well,
when
then we
there's
can't
flooding, and
really
you're
go
seeing
off of it.
water,
If we can't substantiate
No,
the
absolutely,
information,
that's
then we
why-
obviously can't,
We can't do nothing.
correct.
But if I had a vacant code ordinance, it would allow me to inspect the property.
But,
Okay, it inspect the property. So this one is pretty light. I've seen other ones that are a lot more strict than this. This one is pretty light. The first year, we just ask that you register property as vacant. Now, that's not a vacant property that's, going up for sale or something like that. That doesn't apply in this situation. So the first year, we just ask that you register it. Now, the second year, if it's still vacant after 1 whole year, then we're gonna assess a fee of $100 for a residential, $250 for a commercial property. And then that will double the third year.
but based on what? If they're taking care of the property and they're paying their property tax, why do that?
Well, just like I just said, if there's mold in the house, I have no way of finding out whether this house is
There's
falling
mold in my
apart.
house, you don't have any, what's the difference if it's vacant or not?
So, you don't have a problem with all the houses being vacant in the city?
I mean, I don't see it being an overran problem that we have tons of vacant structures in the
We have
city.
over a dozen
But that-
vacant homes,
And how many of those are on the demo list?
none. We have a dozen vacant homes that are just vacant.
But why are they
The
in
properties are being kept, the grass is being kept. So it's being cut,
the
so
property
from the
tax?
outside, it looks like a nice house.
And they're
But-
paying their property
They're
tax?
paying property
I
taxes.
thought we couldn't do anything, does anybody?
But do we
can't.
wanna do, I guess,
we can't, we're one of the only cities that doesn't
do we
have this.
wanna do anything to these people who own this home and take care of it, just so happens that nobody is living in it currently?
Yeah.
I'm asking you guys.
Well, okay, so I have a situation, I'll say, on Maplewood, there's a house that is empty, and it's been empty for, I don't know, like probably 20 years.
Taken care of or
and-
not?
It depends what your definition of taking care
Well, my
of is.
definition of taking care of is following what we have on the books as an
So it has
ordinance.
a broken out basement window in the
Then
back,
that violates an ordinance.
Yeah.
but it's boarded up. So every time that falls down, animals go in and out, the whole neighborhood has rats.
So, but don't we have an ordinance against boarded windows for X amount of time?
I don't think it's X amount of time.
Aren't they only allowed to be
I
boarded
mean,
up
we
for
have like
so
the
long?
whole eyesore that should cover a blanket of what's your definition of an eyesore?
Well-
You know what I mean? Like, if I go down there and I say, okay, like this whole entire front door is completely covered with, it's just overgrown, you can't even open the front door because it's so overgrown. There's really nothing they can do. But it's still an eyesore to the neighbors.
I
mean,
don't know that there's nothing that they could do.
See, but I'm looking at it too from a different standpoint. We have all these meetings with the county, with Eastgate, with the state about housing, that we don't have enough housing here. And we're trying to build houses on these lots that are vacant, and we have homes. We have good homes that could house people.
We're
that
talking about a
want
dozen.
jobs.
So it's not like we're talking
there has
about
to be
some
more than a dozen vacant
huge
homes, I'm sorry.
At least a dozen.
I was gonna say, there has
of
to be, there's like a
properties
dozen
where-
in Ward 2, at least, I
Yeah.
can think of.
Mr.
See,
Patrick?
this handles both the commercial too, so I'm looking at it too from a commercial standpoint, is having empty buildings, not doing anything, just sitting there, even if they're not violating, it's holding up economic development no matter where you look at it.
Yeah.
There could be businesses, there could be income tax, there could be,
So somebody should go to those people and buy that property if
we've
they
tried,
wanna do
we're
that.
in a situation with that on State Street for how long, with Mr. Yavorski for how long, we've
But
been
it's
with
not-
these buildings.
It's not up to us to say, Rick,
And
you
we're
own
not
a
tell-
property, you think it's worth $1 million, it's yours. It might as well be worth $1 million to you. If that's how you feel, then that's what it takes for you to sell it.
So if they want, so, like I said, this is not a very aggressive one. It does have a fine after the second year, and the fine doubles the third year, but there is a cap on how much it's going to be. So if they want to continue to pay that fine and keep the building vacant, they're,
Well, I'm gonna be against the
Exactly.
fine portion of this, I can tell you that. If we did pass something like this, I'll look through this, but I'm gonna be against fining people for owning property and
It-
taking care of it and paying their taxes on it. I'm gonna be against that.
So what if there was a stipulation that said, okay, the property is vacant, but it does have a broken out window and things like that?
If it has a
That's
broken
like-
out window, we have other ordinances to go after the window. It's simple as that.
yes.
So
This-
there is no,
This is just
we
a su-
we understand that you have a property by you with a broken window. We also have ordinances that force them to fix that window.
Yeah, they have to abide by the
Yeah.
property
So-
maintenance
This,
code.
this,
This
It's
is
a
more
supplement.
That's
legislation.
what also, my point is with this, is it gonna be something we pass and then it's just like everything else where it's not really enforced? Like that house I've called
But
about
this
how many
is-
times, you know what I'm saying?
I get it, but look what you're arguing for. You're arguing for more regulation when we
But
already
that's
have regulation to combat what your argument is.
That's what I said, it's just a
So-
blanket
It's-
of,
so they look at it more of a point of economic development within the city.
Yeah, but you're,
It's- The
that,
building is completely perfect.
you know, if they're taking care of it.
Even on commercial, these are
Right.
privately owned business,
Yeah.
or privately owned buildings.
It's-
If property speculation is a hobby of mine, and I buy these commercial buildings, and I keep them clean, and I fix them up, and I wanna sit on them because in the future, they're gonna be worth more, that's my prerogative.
That's
That's
true.
my business, I should not have to pay you a separate tax because there's not a business in it.
So, but.
That's
when
my
it-
feeling
but when
on
it
it.
comes to a home, okay, so you buy up 100 homes in the city of Struthers, and the city of Struthers loses income tax because there's nobody living in these homes.
But we don't have that, you're
And that
creating a
happens-
scenario,
We do have that.
you're
That's why I
saying
brought this up.
hundreds of
Well,
homes,
I'm saying you
you
could,
said a dozen,
Alright,
now
guys,
we're going to
come
hundreds.
on,
but
Tone it down a little.
it's what, I don't know how many there is. I know there's over a dozen.
Well,
There's
I
probably not
I
100.
think we should all read this and talk about this in the
Yeah, this
committee
is
And
meeting.
very
Yeah,
And that's
I
what I
would
brought,
agree.
I
Yeah.
gave it to
That's
you
all.
to review.
To look
Because-
at.
And it's
Yeah.
completely up to this council whether you wanna
But
pass it.
I understand where we came to this, okay? Last week when we discussed the downtown.
Right.
And how you would have more teeth moving forward for time restraints, correct?
This covers a lot of things. If if a building or a home is being remodeled, it doesn't fall under the guidelines.
I guess,
You know what I'm saying?
but that's how this came to fruition, was because
Yes.
when we discussed about downtown, it was, you didn't have enough to go off of timeline wise, because we didn't have any timeline or anything there,
Right.
correct? However,
Hey, guys, can I say something?
sure,
302 Broad Street,
I was just gonna bring it up.
he's been remodeling that house for 40 years.
but I have a solution,
What?
okay?
He was in the court, I went to court.
I understand, but I thought about this, because I thought about it after.
But he's remodeling it, it's been that way
Granted.
for 40 years.
I thought about it last week after our conversation here, about Broad Street, about downtown, how we wouldn't have a timeline to say, 6 months, if this isn't done, these are our recourse, correct?
Right.
Because every one of these people has to file for a permit from the city. From the city of Struthers,
Zoning permit, and then you gotta get a building permit from the county.
from the county.
And that's usually good for 6 months,
Correct.
and then you can get another one.
But what about our permit that they get here? If they're not good,
Ours is just a zoning permit.
so there's not a time statute on
No.
ours.
Not for a zoning permit.
No.
And like you said, you can file for
But I
the
don't-
county and then file again and then
But
file again. And then
I,
file
I'm not
again.
sure I understand
There's no limit.
again.
I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure I
so.
understand again because we also were having people under this administration file for permits down here if they were getting a whole new roof. You were still filing for a permit.
You get a zoning permit. We don't issue building permits in the city of Struthers.
So-
We issue zoning permits that the Mahoney County Building will not give you a building permit unless you have a zoning permit. So they have to come to the city first, get the zoning
So-
permit, then they go to Mahoney County and
Granted.
get their building permit.
So why couldn't we try to grant temporary status on the zoning permit based upon completion?
I
I
think,
guess this might as well go to you.
Don't know if that'd be possible or not on the zoning.
But if, on a zoning permit, we're gonna grant you a temporary status, if this is not fixed in 6 months, 3 months, whatever that timeline may
Maybe that
be,
would go along with the county 6
we are
months.
gonna pull the permit, you are not, we can do that, correct?
I don't, right now as I sit here, I can't think
Now,
of a
that would
reason
put
why
a
you
time
couldn't.
restraint on a lot of these things that everybody has had an issue with, such as downtown, such as any of these. If time restraint is such an issue, why not time restraint the permit?
Do you reissue the permit?
That's up to you. That is up to the
So
city.
they
We
come back to you and
granted,
say, look, I got money now, I wanna reissue the permit?
well, again, everybody here has had an issue with time, the time that things taking to get things done, right? This is a clear way, if this is possible, John would have to look into it, timeline the permit.
At what point? I mean, for what purpose? I mean, you know, it's like you can have all these permits that you want. If the person isn't gonna get the job done, a permit, one way or another, isn't gonna make any
Well,
difference.
granted, but.
Whether you have a time restriction on it or not.
Granted, but then the ball is in your court if they don't fulfill the timeline.
But then you still have no recourse, they just didn't do the timeline,
Yeah.
and they don't get a permit.
And then what are you gonna do?
Alright,
Try to
no,
enforce
All right.
it?
You would
alright, I
impose
think,
penalty based off of that.
all the information these guys just displayed now, carry on at a committee meeting and you could talk for hours,
Fair enough.
Okay.
okay? Any other new business? Port of our Law Director, John, do you have anything?
I do not right now.
Questions right now, are you planning on something? Any questions for our Law Director? Our auditor is absent. Bob, do you have anything on behalf of your office?
I do not.
Questions or comments for our Safety Director? Okay, we'll be, going to executive session after we, open up the floor for questions or comments from the audience, okay? So we'll be going to executive session. Questions on it?
I wanna bring up, under legislation, for that, boats and this and that, let's revise that.
That would be next week, that would be a
Committee meeting night.
Committee meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
get your proposal written up and bring it to the committee.
Okay.
Anything else? Need a motion during caucus?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.